Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudolph, joined today by Evan Rawal to talk a little bit everything Avs. We'll look at some old Avs. We'll look at some current new Avs, even perhaps. So, I don't know. Let's jump right into where we were talking yesterday, Evan. The Avs have had many big names come through their halls, their doors. Sure, I get that.
They all work.
They used to be Pepsi Center doors. Now they're Ball Arena doors, I guess. Well, I guess back then they were McNichols Arena doors, really. But which ones are underrated in your mind? As we came up with Ozolinsh and Varley the other day.
Yeah, I feel like the Avs have had, especially those early years, that first cup they won with kind of an unheralded defense that wasn't, Adam Foote was still kind of early on in his career. They got Ozolinsh, who I would agree is definitely underrated, but a guy like Alexei Gusarov logged some pretty nice minutes for that team back in the day and was a real solid player for them. He's a guy I would say was underrated. And then you look at, he was with the team for a while and he did a little bit of everything. John Clem. Played a little forward, played some defense, went on to get, I think, a big fat contract from the Chicago Blackhawks towards the end of his career. But and then Aaron Miller, kind of like Clem. I think he played a little bit of forward with the Avs too. But they had a lot of defensemen that kind of came through that just went about their jobs pretty quietly and were really solid over in their time.
Clem and Miller were a little bit more depth options, right? They weren't quite at the top, as opposed to Gusarov, who was a guy who, as you said, he quietly played top pairing minutes for some of those super stacked teams. So,
yeah, and that's why Clem and Miller played a little bit of forward because the team was just so stacked that they just kind of moved them around.
Yep.
But yeah, they were more. I think Clem was like third pairing Stanley Cup year, so. They were definitely depth guys. I mean, Greg DeVries is another guy who was pretty unheralded this Stanley Cup year. He was kind of that fourth option who, he wasn't a big. He kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't. I think he was more of like a journeyman and just kind of came on with the Avs for a couple of years and really helped them win a cup.
Hard to argue with helping them win a cup, which kind of brings me to my next question. When you're comparing some of these old Avalanche teams that let's talk about on paper because, in reality, it's kind of hard to compare these things. Today's Avalanche team, does it rank in the top 5 Avalanche teams of all time in comparison? Like, I'm assuming the 2 years they win a cup, you just say is better because they won a cup.
Yeah. Well, it is so hard to say because we haven't seen the team, obviously, and we're comparing them against Hall of Fame stacked teams, because if we're looking on paper, you still even have to go to that 03-04 team that didn't even do anything, and that team was pretty stacked. So
that's the top 3.
Yeah, and then,
but you look at this year's team, and you're saying McKinnon's probably on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Makar, assuming health. Sure looks like he could be a Hall of Famer, and then you have maybe some fringe guys like a Rantanen or something like that.
Yeah, this is definitely the best team they've had since the first lockout, I would say. It's just a matter of stacking them up against those Sakic-Forsberg years.
Yep.
If anything, it could maybe crack the number 5. I think you look at those teams back then and
the conference finals teams and stuff.
Yeah, the reason they weren't winning more cups is because the Red Wings were just as stacked with no salary cap and all these other teams. So the salary cap makes it even more impressive how good this team is this year on paper.
That is true. It is a bit of an unfair comparison with the cap in place. So maybe not the fairest comparison of all there, but certainly both sides of the older Avs and the newer Avs have the hype built around them once again, I would say.
Yeah, and that's why we're all so glad that it seems like there's going to be a season this year, because you wouldn't want to see this team go to waste.
Yeah, I think that would be a very disappointing way to go. It certainly doesn't seem like that's even an option at this point. It certainly looks like they're going to have some type of season as we sit around and wait for them to just make it official at this point.
Yeah, I know. It could be tomorrow or the next day.
Or next week. Nobody, the way they keep rumoring it, nobody knows. But hopefully soon. 56 game schedule. What do you make of that, Evan? There's a conversation about having shorter seasons in the NHL where more games have more, where fewer games, each game has more impact, right? Each game is more important. It raises the energy level because, let's be honest, an 82-game season, it's hard for players to go 110% every game.
Yeah. I, over the last few years, have come on board with the idea that 82 is just too long. You get to the points where it's usually like January or so, you're like, okay, well, this is kind of the dead of the season. Nothing's really happening. There's no... a lot of these guys are worn out, and, then you get to the trade deadline and things kind of pick up again from there.
Sure.
I think 70 is a great number. The problem is you're not going to get these owners to agree to lowering the game amounts.
Margins, yeah.
It will be interesting to see a 56 game season if it's a little bit more intense, just with a little bit more on the line, just because I'm having trouble remembering back to the 42 games?
48.
Or 48?
Yep.
Just because the Avs were not good that year, so it's hard to remember exactly.
Definitely a forgettable year.
But yeah, I feel like a 56-game season, I'd be interested to see just how intense this is, especially since it seems like you're going to be playing a lot of the same teams over and over again, so it could be a rivalry thing going in. The games could get pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's the other side of this coin. You've played hockey at a pretty high level. I'm sure you play the same teams somewhat regularly, growing up, the local teams. Is there a bit of a chess match situation there when it comes to playing the same team for the third time in 4 days or whatever?
Yeah, we usually played the same teams multiple times in the weekend just because we're all in the same area. So, yeah, it's going to be – this is when coaching will come into play, because it's always hard to beat the same teams. If you're just playing the same team 3 times in a row, eventually the other team is, they're going to make some adjustments. So it becomes an adjustment game at that point, and then we're going to really see what Bednar has, and especially if it's going to be like the back-to-back type thing. A deep team like the Avs could maybe just sub in some guys and get some fresh bodies in there to, if it's going to be like that. So give the other team a different look. So it is going to be interesting, and I'm excited to see that because it's going to be something new. We don't see this normally in the NHL, so this is going to be a whole different year.
Yeah, I've always wondered what kind of the baseball homestand would look like in some of these other sports. So I'm super excited about it, but we'll see how it actually plays out in reality, as hockey certainly has a bit more randomness in it, to say the least. And it'll be interesting because if it does feel a little bit like one bad weekend could be a lot more impactful to a hockey team.
Yeah. If it's all in division, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see someone said we might see more fights. That is going to be interesting to see just how nasty these games get. Cause you see playoff series, you see the same guys over and over again. It gets pretty intense, so it's going to carry over to the regular season. So yeah, it's, we'll see if, I know people don't think the Avs are tough enough. We'll see if that even matters at all this year.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it gets reffed, right? Because every year we see in the playoffs, the reffing goes out the window basically, and half the stuff that was getting called in the regular season doesn't. So,
yeah, you wonder if it's going to be more consistent too, because if they're going to be playing the same team, you just keep the same refs there.
Ref. So yeah, by the end of a homestand, maybe you have a better feel for what the refs are calling, things like that. Yeah,
it's going to be a wild year once they officially announce it.
Still operating under a few assumptions, I guess, but
yeah.
Let's wrap up this segment by looking at that January 13th date. We're inside of a month now without this announcement. Is that still feasible, you think, or are we looking at a potential pushback here?
I do wonder if it's going to get pushed back a little bit, maybe a week or so, just to kind of make up some time, because they've been negotiating. We've heard this January 13th date for what, 2 weeks now? So, it feels like it's going to need to get pushed back since they can't come to any sort of agreement. And, I see Rantanen's posting. I think he's still in Finland. So you got to get these guys over into the U.S.
Well, and this ruling about NHL requiring 7-day quarantines as well.
Yeah, there's going to be some adjustments, and then a quick camp. That's going to be the thing, is 10-day camp, and I bet the players actually probably will love it because training camp just kind of goes on forever.
Yeah.
So, it's I'm not buying the 13th date right now just because it's been dragging on for so long. I feel like it's going to get pushed back a little bit. I saw they're still going to try to do the triple header on opening day with all the divisions, and the Avs might be involved in that. So just shows the status that they now might have in the NHL, where people are realizing this team's going to be really good.
I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, we'll take our first period break there and tell you guys about WGT Golf, the #1 gaming sponsor here at DNVR, starting this Friday, the 18th. That's tomorrow. Through the weekend, we'll be hosting the Santa's Workshop Open at Kiowa Island. Caught my sneeze there with the mute button. Sometimes lucky. All country clubs can participate. We have 4 of them. When you go to DNVR Golf and download the game, search for DNVR4 to join our country club and get in on these tournaments. If you haven't played yet, it is an awesome time. Head to Kiowa Island. To enter, all you have to do is play the closest to the whole challenge we'll have in there on the clubhouse. And once you finish, submit a screenshot of your final score and send it into info@thednvr.com. Once you do that, you'll be entered to win, and we will randomly pick a winner each week that will get a choice of a DNVR shirt or mask that we will ship directly to you, so you can win yourself some free DNVR merch for playing a free video game. Sounds like a win-win to me. Jump in on it. Send us your screenshot. Good luck. Secondarily, we have Hassel Cattle Company. These guys are amazing. I had their Wagyu burger the other night. Super easy to cook. Super delicious. Melt in your mouth meat. I mean, I'm a meat lover, so obviously I'm going to like it, but I didn't even think I needed condiments on this burger. I would have just shoved the meat in my mouth. It was so good. So highly recommend.
Sign of a good burger.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing stuff. They offer tons of different meat, and you can get an entire meat box from them every single month. Cannot recommend it enough if you're a meat eater, because this stuff is just mwah. They call their Wagyu blue collar Wagyu because it's the best damn Wagyu that every man or woman can afford. Hassel Cattle Company offers Wagyu smoked sausage, New York strip, beef bacon, Wagyu Frank, 2 jerky flavors, original as well as sweet and spicy. And their hamburger, the one that I had the other night, won Food Network's Northeast Burger Jam. So don't take my word for it. Take the people that actually know what they're talking about's word for it. It is extremely good. Head on over to hassellcattlecompany.com. That's HASSELL cattlecompany.com, and use promo code DNVR10 for 10% off your order. Any orders over $200, you get free shipping as well. Check them out. You will not be disappointed. A couple people in chat mentioning McKinnon is staying in Nova Scotia till Christmas. And the thing is about this is it's not like these guys aren't skating, right? McKinnon has his whole squad up in Nova Scotia that goes out and practices. There are people here in Colorado skating as well. So there is skating and hockey going on. It just not necessarily a training camp environment. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's more. They're more talking about probably the quarantine and when these guys are going to come to the U.S. I would imagine it might be a little bit different for McKinnon coming from Canada as opposed to like Finland, someone like that. But yeah, I mean, to me, that just seems more like this 10-day before January 13th training camp is maybe a little bit too optimistic at this point. If a lot of these guys are staying home till Christmas, so it might be pushed back a couple days.
And that's, I mean, I wouldn't have any complaints, right? Whatever it takes to have a season, you just do it. But the Avs are a team that, for as far as we know, are completely healthy going into the season, right? So an extra day earlier, an extra day later probably doesn't matter much to them.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the later it is, the little bit more opportunity they have to get Bo and Byram back from World Juniors. But other than that, I don't see a big effect on training camp for them.
Yeah, I mean, whenever it is, it seems like the Avs are going to be fine. Yeah, I saw that somebody said, I wonder if they're going to have the same rules on injuries as they did during the bubble. And it's just like, I hope not. I hope they give us a little bit more information.
Yeah, that unfit to play stuff was awful.
Yeah, it is a good point. EJ, I guess we really don't know about him. And that's kind of the problem with the Avs, is that they're so tight-lipped. We don't really have any definite answers on the guys that were hurt in the playoffs. Sounds like Gruby's going to be fine. I guess EJ might be really the only question mark at this point, just because we don't know how long his recovery was going to be. But
months ago, the Instagram sleuth saw him walking around without a boot or anything. So our Instagram sleuths will have to keep us posted on what EJ's looking like, at least on Instagram. But
I don't think I even follow him on Instagram, so I'm not sleuthing. But I mean, beyond him, I don't think there's really anyone else to even worry about at this point.
Yeah,
so the Avs appear to be in good shape.
So, assuming the Avs are healthy on defense, let's take a look at their defensive pairings. Cale Makar is a top pairing defenseman at this point. I think that's pretty much clear. But there has to be the conversation about who you put with him. And last year, a lot of the time, it was Ryan Graves. There's some expectation that will at least continue at the start of the year because, why mess with a good thing? But is there any temptation to put Devon Taves up there or someone else?
I think there is definitely going to be some temptation to put Taves up there, and maybe they even revisit the Girard thing. I have less expectation about Girard being there than Taves. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some, I can see why they would want to put Taves there. I think he's a better defenseman than Graves, but it worked well with Graves and Makar last year, so I kind of feel like they're going to default to that. And the part inside of me that says I want to see Taves Girard personally as a pairing. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the second year you're hoping that Makar could maybe get a better partner and really help us end a little bit more. We'll just see. Graves got a long-term extension here. I don't see why they're going to be willing to change it, because it was pretty much him and Makar the entire season.
Yeah. The question there ultimately is just how they want to do it. And for the record, the Avs love to do things like randomly throw Cale and Sam together in the offensive zone, things like that. So pairs are certainly fluid. I'm just talking about in general here. So let's take in a world where it's Taves and Makar,
You sound like a movie guy.
in a world where the Avs defense doesn't have Ryan Graves in the top 4. But that is my question.
Mhm.
You have Taves, Makar, Girard, all top 4D. Who's the fourth one? You have Cole, EJ. Is it still Graves? Is Byram in the mix for that spot?
Byram, I don't see him being in the mix for the spot right away. I think that would be something he would have to work towards. I would just, of those 4, I would think EJ, because I don't think they're going to go Girard Makar. So if they didn't go Girard Makar or Graves Makar, it's going to be Taves Makar. And I think at that point they want Girard and EJ together. Okay. The reason I like Taves Girard is because I like Girard on the right side. I think he does play a little bit better there. Yeah. It gives him the tornado a little bit more. He seems to play a little bit more offensively in that spot too. But the Avs, they've got some options on the right side now, so that's not necessarily going to happen. But yeah, I think Taves Makar would be a really, really interesting pair, especially. I mean, might be the best skating pair in the NHL if they're put together.
All right. Hello, AJ. Go back to moving into your house. Appreciate you watching. And all of the rest of you as well. A couple of questions here in chat. Let's start with 2006's question here. What if Byram has an outstanding WJC? AJ has been on record many times saying there's some expectation around the Avs that Byram is going to make the team and is going to play at very least his 9 games. How do you work him in? Because if we take this world where it's Makar and Taves, Girard and EJ, that leaves Graves and Cole on the bottom pairing with Byram as the 7th D, or are you working him in for one of Cole or Graves? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so I think either way, we're going to assume Taves, Girard, and Makar are going to be in the top 4. You're looking at a relatively immobile third pair, and that's where Byram can make his move, add some mobility and offense to that third pair. So if he has an outstanding World Juniors, honestly, that should be the expectation, considering his draft position and his age. You're kind of hoping that he does have an outstanding World Juniors, and that if he doesn't, it's going to be a little bit more of a disappointment than anything. So yeah, I mean, either way, he's going to be here, and it's the way that he can make his move into that lineup is just by showing his mobility and adding a little bit of offense to the bottom pair, which we would not anticipate to be very mobile, no matter who's on it.
Skating ability. Are you one that would push for a little bit of the vet and the rookie pairing there? And we can bring Timmins into this conversation as well, depending on how things shake out. Because if you're putting Byram with Graves, look, Graves isn't young. He's 25, I believe, might be turning 26, but he only has a year and a half, really, of NHL experience. Whereas Ian Cole, he's been in the league for almost a decade now. So,
yeah, I'm not sure it's really going to matter all that much. I think they would prefer to get, Byram with a veteran, but they're going to have to see how the roles play out. I think it is. I think I would lean more towards Byram is going to be with a veteran, just because I do think Graves is going to start on that top pair. Whether he finishes there is another thing, but then that gives you the option of, EJ, do you want EJ or Cole? Because Cole can play the right side too, so then you're not having Byram, switch his position. Where I know Graves played a little bit of the right side, but the other guys are a little bit better there, so makes it a little bit more natural there. And I think they're going to be more willing, I would say, to rest these veteran guys over like a guy like Graves.
Certainly, if it's the 3 games and 4 nights type of schedule too.
Yeah, especially people are going to get hurt, and those 2 guys tend to get hurt a lot.
Right. That's with EJ's inevitable injury.
If he doesn't already have one,
right. If he's even healthy for the start of the season, that's what should get Byram into the lineup regularly, but also brings Connor Timmins into the conversation. The Avs, we've said this before on the show, but the Avs are on record showing they want to see Connor Timmins stay healthy this year. That's their biggest look at him, because last year, yes, not only the stuff in the playoffs, but had the lower body injury in the AHL and missed a month as well. But at the end of the day, if they have injuries, they're going to put the best team on the ice they can. And if they lose one guy, you probably make the case for Byram. If they lose two guys, they're probably going to play Connor Timmins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, especially if they put him in the playoffs, they obviously have some faith in him and what he can do. And he doesn't really have these veteran guys to leap over this year in Connaughton and Barbario.
Yep.
He's got Dennis Gilbert, some of these guys who are probably in the same spot as him as far as when it comes to NHL experience. So he's not, at a disadvantage there. So, and the one advantage he's always going to have is he's a right shot. And coaches always love the idea of 3 right shots, 3 left shots. Especially if EJ's hurt. If EJ's the guy going down, then you probably do want that right shot coming into the lineup. So
you can run Makar, Girard, Timmins then.
Yeah, that's a young and talented right pair, right side, which they did for a couple playoff games.
Yeah,
that's
true.
How crazy it is. So, yeah, we've already seen a glimpse into this, and we know the coaching staff loves Timmins, and like we talked about last Friday, it's training camp is when he shines. He shines in these practices because he's such a smart guy. He knows what to do, and the coaches see that.
What's your take on that lineup from the perspective of Jared Bednar? Because that's extremely inexperienced. If you're running Makar, Girard, Byram, Timmins, and Graves, and then your only proper veteran on that lineup would be Ian Cole if we're saying EJ's hurt.
Yeah. I think it would bother him less than we think, because this is a guy who threw Makar right to the Wolves in the playoffs, playing him 20-plus minutes a night a few games into his NHL career. It's a guy who, as soon as we got Girard, he was on the top pair. Like, there was nothing that held him back. So if the guys are talented enough, I don't think he's going to be afraid to give him minutes. And if that's the situation, then he's going to have really no choice. We know that he's going to ride Makar and Girard. Girard is a veteran at this point. I think we just need to say that. So he's got, 200-plus NHL games. The coaching staff clearly trusts him. I don't really look at – he's young, but he's not in the same realm as these other guys. So I think he's a veteran on their end. And really, the way that they played Graves in the playoffs and regular season, I think they have no concerns there as far as trusting him. So I don't think it'd be as big a worry as maybe with other coaches, but Bednar has coached a lot of young guys in his career and has showing more willingness to play these young guys. So I think if need be, he would not be too concerned about it because he can see the talent on the ice.
All right. We can take our second period break there. Let you guys know about Chevalier Mortgage. Whether looking at refinancing your current mortgage or buying a new home, Mike in Virginia will make the process as simple and as smooth as possible. If you've gone through the loan process before and you would rather go to get a root canal or do something awful, like watch the Raiders, then even think about rather than doing it again, that's because you haven't worked with Mike in Virginia. Trust me, they will make this process amazing for you. Jump on over to DNVRmortgage.com and visit Mike in Virginia. Not only can you get a free consultation for them, you can enter to win a free DNVR shirt or hat of your choice. So you might as well get over there and check them out just for that. Again, that's DNVRmortgage.com, or you can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578. Get signed up for that free consultation to discuss all of your options when it comes to loans or purchasing a home, all that good stuff. They are amazing at what they do. Again, just cannot recommend those guys enough. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast with Rudo and Evan Rawal, talking a little bit of the Avs lineup here. With the defense sorted, as we start to prep a little bit for training camp to come, again, things are still a little bit unclear. over a year ago now, Evan, you coined the term Shane Bednar. For Bednar's love for Shane Bowers.
Feels a lot longer than that.
I know, it does. It feels about a decade ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But is there any chance for Shane Bednar to make this lineup? Shane Bowers, that is, of course.
He's in an uphill battle just because of how deep this team is. I would imagine Kaut is ahead of him, and Kaut, if you look at the lineup, is probably
on the
fighting
outside,
for a spot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's another guy that, like Timmins, if they have to take their time with him, they're going to do that. And look at the AHL team; he's going to get some big minutes down there. So, I think he's in tough to, with a healthy team, come in and win a spot outright out of camp.
Yeah, I certainly. It'll be interesting to see the Avs' decision making on both sides, I guess, in a shortened camp, because we know the Avs do really like to take a lot of time in training camp to look at these guys and give them opportunities to earn roles on the team. So it's going to be a bit of a crunch time this year with limited opportunity to do that. And realistically, there probably won't be, or if there is, a very, very limited preseason to get game situations in as well.
Yeah, it stinks for these younger guys because that's where Bowers impressed them so much. Is he came into these preseason games and he played really well. And Kaut too. Kaut had a really good preseason in camp last year, and that's kind of what, after he picked it up a little bit more offensively in the AHL after a slow start, that probably gave him a little bit more confidence to see what he can do in the NHL. So it's tough for these young guys because now they're not going to have these, preseason games to really make an impression and hopefully. Is it your birthday?
It is my birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Rudo.
Thank you, Mom.
But yeah, it's gonna stink for the young guys that want to come in and make an impression and hopefully earn a spot, because these veterans are just gonna need the games to get ready, if there even are preseason games to get ready for for the regular season.
Yeah, it's a weird balance for the vets, right? Because they need games to get ready, but at the same time, they want to reserve a lot in the tank as well, knowing that the sprint of a season that's coming ahead. So it might be a bit of an interesting balance there in getting ready for the season for the team as a whole. But
Bednar has been like kind of anti-scrimmage since he's gotten here.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like he's going to have no choice. He did it a little bit in the training camp 2.0. He scrimmaged. So I feel like he's going to have no choice but to put these guys in game situations in camp, and that's where they're going to have to evaluate.
Yeah. It's definitely tough to stand out. And that's not true. It's not tough to stand out, but you stand out in different ways when you're looking at scrimmage situations versus drills. Cale Makar was one of those players where you put him in game situations and everybody watching goes, wow. But you see him in a drill and, he's just doing a drill. Mm-hmm. It's not that amazing to watch. Whereas, honestly, a good example of the opposite is Shane Bowers. Because he does so many of the little things right, he always stands out as getting all the little details correct in a drill. So, yeah,
and a scrimmage against your teammates it's a lot different than a preseason game against other teams.
Of course.
You don't want to hurt your teammate. You don't want to do anything that's gonna piss off a potential future teammate. So, yeah, it's a little bit different. So this is going to be in that way a different camp for these younger guys, especially since nobody knows what's going on with the AHL too. Nothing's really set in stone there.
I mean, we didn't even touch on this, but the consideration of a potential taxi squad. Realistically, Byram, Timmins, Kaut, O'Connor, even possibly Bowers, they could all be traveling with the team. It's not outside the realm of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, didn't even talk about O'Connor. That's another guy Bowers would have to jump in training camp. And considering O'Connor looked good in the postseason, it would take a lot.
Gonna be hard, I would think. There's probably a decent case that O'Connor's ahead of Kaut on the depth list. So
with losing Nieto, you would think. They were playing him on the PK in the playoffs, so it makes sense. So yeah, it's an uphill climb for Bowers this year.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you for the reminder. The Avs defense on the penalty kill, power play. Look, I'm assuming it's Makar and Girard still. If Byram gets time there, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, Taves, didn't he run the top power play in New York, or one of them? So, I mean, there's options. So we'll see. It's obviously Makar is going to run it. And does it even matter who runs the second unit at this point?
Are they ever going to score? I mean, is there a consideration to run 2D then? You could do a Girard Taves or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not big on the two defenseman system. It typically doesn't work out, and the Avs have so many forwards that they like to get in to the power play. So they're probably going to run 4 forwards, 1D, just to keep it similar to the system in front of them, the top unit. But yeah, the penalty kills where it's all going to come down to, because that's the questions on defense.
Yeah, then obviously EJ's going to PK. Obviously Cole's going to PK. Graves PK'd plenty last year. There's no reason to expect that to change either. That 4th spot is where things get interesting, and if there's an injury is where things get interesting. You have Taves. The assumption is they got him to help PK, even though he didn't really do a lot of PKing with New York. And then the other question becomes, do you try Sam Girard there? Look, we know he's small, but his defensive metrics, at least at 5-on-5, are very, very good. Or do you YOLO a Byram?
I tried Girard there, personally. The only problem is he uses a stick that's like 3 feet long, so he doesn't do much in terms of breaking up passing lanes. But I think he would do really well there. It's just he's just so quick, and he can get to pucks when the other team dumps it in. I think he'd do really well there. Z was the 4th guy last year, but even then they didn't use him a ton. Obviously he was in the box a lot, but they are not afraid to just run 3D on the penalty kill. So I could see that happening a lot, where they're going to go with these other guys and run them, I guess, run down their throats. Just these guys are going to be the PK guys. But the other problem you have there is that those are the 3 guys on the defense that are going to take all the penalties. So they're going to need backups. And we know what Girard can do there, because he's gotten some time in there, and I think he's done pretty well. Taves, I think they're going to obviously try. I think Makar is going to be the last option. They want to save all of his strength and energy for even strength and power play. So you're going to have to see what these other guys can do, and that's maybe what we're going to see in camp is, they're going to try everything out there. And I think if there's somewhere that Timmins might have an advantage there, it's the PK, because they were using him in the playoffs there. So might give him a chance.
Give him a little bit of an edge. It'll certainly be interesting to see how that shakes out. I do wonder a little bit. Maybe Sam can do like the Ovi thing, right? How Ovi gets the super flex stick on the power play. Sam just gets a 3 foot longer stick on the penalty kill.
Yeah. I ultimately, I don't think it's going to play a huge role, because I think they're going to roll those other guys, and then maybe the 4th guy gets out there for the last 30 seconds to transition into Makar and whoever they don't use for the penalty kill. So I'm not sure it's going to play a huge role, but obviously injuries are going to change all that.
Does the shortened season make special teams less or more important to you?
Well, I feel like in the playoffs, the penalty kill is always the more important specialty unit, and I think it's going to be kind of the same in the if there's a shortened season, just because, especially if we're going to have these back against the same teams, they're going to get an idea of what works, what doesn't. You're going to need your penalty kill to step up, because the Avs can score goals at even strength. It's just going to be a matter of keeping them out of their own net on the penalty kill. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be a little bit like the playoffs, where the penalty kill plays a bigger role than the power play, in my opinion.
All right. I guess there's a little bit of a conversation at forward there too, given the loss of Matt Nieto. The Masnikov didn't really PK, so not as big of a deal there. But
the fact that they're stuck on Comfer being a penalty kill guy, Belmar, Calvert, Comfer, you would assume are going to be the three guys. And do they let Nichushkin play on the penalty kill? I feel like that's an obvious one, and then we've seen Jost can do it.
Yeah, they were leaning on Jost at the end of the season. That's true.
They have options, so just got to use them.
Pick a bottom sixer and go.
Yeah.
All right. Might not be that difficult for the Avs to put out some PK pairings, PK units in full, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
The power play is pick 8 forwards and you're fine. Obviously, the big ones, the top 6 will all play, I have no doubt. And then who knows, Don's going Comfer on the second unit or something. But yeah, Jost did PK quite a bit down the stretch of last year, Steph. So
yeah, they finally started using him there.
And he was pretty darn good at it too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he had good numbers. That's somewhere where he can step up.
There you go. Another opportunity as, I don't know, I guess we're winding down this show here. Hopefully, if not Friday, by Monday, the NHL has news of when this season is starting. So we can really get into our ramp up to the new year. But
give us something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. anything NHL
something
related.
Official.
I don't want to have to start breaking down like third tier Swedish hockey. That's where Jean-Luc Foudy is playing or something. But
you could do it.
I could do it. It doesn't mean I want to do it. Anyway, on that note, we're going to get out of here with Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD infused coffee that has really changed lives. You can get 20% off when you use code DNVR20 on your first order. And you get 20% off every single time when you sign up for their subscription service for 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks. Jump on it. A bunch of amazing flavors. I think over the past couple days, I told you guys about the s'mores flavor, the marshmallow flavor. I think they have, oh man, I don't even know. There's other sweet, sugary flavors that you should try, basically. Helps with a ton of aches and pains, all of that. You can check them out at StravaCraftCoffee.com. Evan, thank you for coming on. I'm sure we'll see you again tomorrow for some kind of a Free Skate Friday shenanigans. You got anything?
I'll wear this tracksuit if people want me to.
All right, everybody go tweet at Evan to wear the tracksuit.
It's supposed to snow tomorrow. It's a great cold weather outfit. I tell you, it keeps you warm.
Gonna have to make him sweat all episode long in the tracksuit. On that note, hopefully we hear something. Thank you for watching, listening, however you consume. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. That helps us out a ton with the podcast. And we will talk to y'all tomorrow.